Okay, my hat today is from Siesta Key, Florida, and I'm still wearing my Letterman shirt. Uh, I was just walking down the street down there, and there's two police cars down there, and I was just walking by, and the policeman rolled down his window, and he said, "Oh, sir, you shouldn't keep going down the street." And I said, "What's going on?" And he pointed over at the tree, and there's a bear in the tree. So I turn around. I'm coming back this way. It's not unusual to have wildlife in our city. I live in a place surrounded by a lot of wilderness. Moving along, as far as wilderness goes, uh, I'm going to ask if there's a simple way to become. Yeah, no, that's not going to work either. I was reading about. Uh, okay, now I was starting a video. Going through a lot of files right now, and my assistants are kind of pointing at all the things I've been touched on today before I got on the phone. And there's too much for me to talk about at one time. Um, okay, I was talking about why it might appear that if you're on things like Facebook, um, it appears like you're shadow banned. And I ran out of space on my phone for the video when it crapped out. So I was going to see if I could get back on topic. Why would it be if you are not finding people acknowledging stuff that you've got, etc.? And the one idea that came up was after I watched an Aaron Dowdy video where he had a wonderful diagram of the intersection between the 3D world and the 5D world. So I got to thinking, if you're in a 5D version of Earth and everyone else is in a 3D version of Earth, is that the reason why you can't seem to communicate with people through video, or even when you're out with people? A lot of times I find I just don't seem to connect with people. And I'm really wondering if it's because of this 5D, 3D thing. Somehow, people who are not 5D are just, to me, they appear to be not present. Um, They're still going through a lot of files here. They're asking me to wait. So sorry. But if you're waiting in the meantime and you're wondering why I'm quiet, it's because my assistants in the background are basically throwing up the stop sign and telling me, "Bob, please stop talking," because Okay, now the next point, if they want me to talk about it, is after World War II, where Nazi Germany was defeated by the Allies, there was a program in place to denazify Germany. And originally, well, I was reading about Germany was separated into 4 sectors: American, British, Russian. Was it French too? I'm not sure if French had it, but maybe there was 3: British, American, Russian. Anyway, I'm not sure if there was a French section. Strangely, the Canadians didn't get a section because, and the Australians didn't get a section. New Zealand didn't get a section. Can't explain why. It's just that they were major participants in the war at the end. But anyway, the program that the Americans were running, they quickly abandoned it because in one case, 42% of the government officials had been fired, and the country was sliding into malnutrition because well, you have to read between the lines, but it sounds like you get rid of 42% of the government officials, you can't run a government. And you just can't bring people in from the outside to run it, or that's the story that they want to tell you. Anyway, that's what they said, and they started getting worried about the buildup of the Russian Empire, the Soviet Union, and it was more of a concern. There was a lot of things about it. It was basically, well, you have to read between the lines, but it really seems like a lot of the very smart people were Nazi. And if you get rid of the people that can run things, the people were falling into starvation. So when the West German government took over from the Americans, the denazification efforts, well, there was quite a bit of corruption, according to the Wikipedia article. And they basically said that it was fraught with problems because they said, well, it was a repeat from World War I, where in World War I, in the Treaty of Versailles, Germany was stripped of its industry. It was and there was a lot of limits put on their military, what they could do. And, well, I guess the Germans didn't like the idea that the victor of the war was trying to impoverish them. And the other thing was that the Americans took a lot of the top German scientists for things like their own military programs and bio warfare programs. And they also took them because they knew a lot about the Russians. And so they wanted these German intelligence officers to work for them because they knew what was going on in Russia, and maybe they had contacts there. So they had multiple reasons why they wanted the Nazis to come over. The end result, however, was that the Nazi influence was imported into Western countries. And I mean, it was already there. We know that Senator Prescott Bush, who was the father of the first President Bush, traded with the Nazis. Many American corporations were also involved with trade with the Nazis. So, I mean, there was even talk that the King of England was a Nazi sympathizer. That would have been the one who abdicated. And it was basically a lot of industrialists who liked this idea of Nazism. And that's what we've got today. There was a lot of these Nazi companies. Messerschmitt was the manufacturer of aircraft, fighter aircraft, bomber aircraft. And I was reading about the founder of the company, Mr. Messerschmitt, and they used slave labor. And, if you look at the way our society is run today, slave labor, question mark? Well, I mean, if you don't pay people enough so that they can live, I would say you're paying slave wages. So we have got a very strong element of what's known as fascism, which is ruled by the corporation. Now that's the problem, and without focusing too much on the problem, we have to focus on the solution. How do we defascisize, decorporatize, denazify the planet? That will be the next lecture.